when you're thinking about going on video, first of all, why do you not like doing it? Because often it's a bit blurry. We think, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't like that thing. But actually, what is it about going on video? Is it because you don't like the way you sound? Is it because you don't like the way you look? Is it because you're unclear about what your message is?
Does this resonate with you? Do you have resistance in getting in front of the camera? Then this episode is for you. I interview professional voiceover artist and performance coach Elisabeth Valentine, and we share lots of tips and insights so you can get confident in front of the camera. And if you watch right to the end, I have a special offer on my How to Get Confident on Camera course. Joining me this week is Elisabeth Valentine. She is a voiceover artist, singer, speaker, and performance coach. She's been a professional performer since the age of 8 and lends her voice, expertise, and coaching to some of the biggest brands in the world, like Disney, Apple, Netflix, H&M, Just Eat, Fisher-Price, and My Little Pony. Her company, The Voice Campus, she coaches people to develop their public speaking, pitching, presentation, and networking skills so they can confidently share their message and make the biggest impact in the world. Welcome to the show, Elisabeth. It's great to have you on. Look, I know I've known you for a while now, a number of years. I'm really impressed with what you do. I know you do a lot of voiceover work. I guess mainly in Danish, and I know you do voices as well. Is that right?
I do. So as you say, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm really loving what you do as well, and I think it's so important, especially nowadays. You have to be on video, so it's great that you've also started this podcast that has so many great tips for people. So yeah, I do a lot of voiceovers, primarily in Danish, even though I've lived in London for the past 20 years. But yeah, I do some voices, which I like doing, and a lot of kids' toys I get to do, which is fun. And because I'm a singer, a lot of those toys, you press its stomach and then it goes A B C D E F G ba 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 ba, and then you press its paw and it goes I love you. So I do a lot of those, and I did some Princess Twilight Sparkle for My Little Pony some years ago, which was great fun.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I guess that must be, I would find that a bit weird, just doing a voice and then ending up on a toy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I guess, that is the nature of your job, and I guess you love the variety of what you do. But today I want to really talk about, video is obviously what I want to talk about, but I know you do video. I also know you do performance. And I think the two are related in the way that if you're going to be on camera, you have to do some sort of performance. And that's what I want to talk about today, to get your tips and insights on how we can all be better in front of the camera. Because I know one of the biggest reasons why people don't want to be on video is because they don't like the way they look and sound, and they have this fear of the camera. I mean, obviously you probably don't suffer from that, being a performer since 8, but for us mere mortals, why don't we like ourselves, the way we look and sound on camera?
I mean, it is so true. And sometimes I don't like the way I look and sound on camera, but you kind of have to separate your personal discomfort, or some days you just don't feel so great, or you feel like, oh, I look terrible today, or oh, don't take my picture. And some days you feel amazing and you go, hey, everything I'm doing today is great. So we have to remember that how we feel isn't objectively how things look and sound. Often, obviously, I coach a lot of voiceover artists as well as people who want to do public speaking and pitching and stuff. And it's that thing in the beginning, you hate the sound of your voice because it doesn't sound like that to you. The way we hear our sound, because we hear it both inside of our head and then the sound that comes back into our ears. But when you just hear your voice on a recording and you go, oh, is that what I sound like? That's awful. That's because you only hear it through your ears at that point in time. So it sounds different. So the most important thing is, when you're thinking about going on video, first of all, why do you not like doing it? Because often it's a bit blurry. We think, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't like that thing. But actually, what is it about going on video? Is it because you don't like the way you sound? Is it because you don't like the way you look? Is it because you're unclear about what your message is? Or do you not know how to use the video later? Are you worried about, oh, but then I have to go and edit it and I have to look at it? What actually is it? Because often when we don't like something, or we're afraid of something, or we feel nervous about something, we need to dig a little bit deeper. So if you are someone who's feeling resistant to creating video content, first of all, I'd say spend a little time analyzing, what is it about creating video content that makes you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's a mindset issue, basically. I mean, there's a lot going in our minds, and I think a lot of us, it could be confidence as well.
And the first thing you want to do is fall in love with your reflection. And that's something that feels very, maybe uncomfortable, but then we see a lot of people at the moment who are loving themselves on camera, all the influencers and the Instagram models. And you think, I think for a lot of people who don't inhabit that sphere, that feels very confronting and maybe a little bit arrogant, or a little bit sickening. So, but still fall in love with your reflection, fall in love with your voice. And that comes from, it really comes from thinking about, when do you feel your best? When do you feel the most passionate? When do you feel the most engaged? And think about, when are you feeling those things? And then go and talk to yourself in the mirror. I've coached quite a few people over the years who've been going to job interviews, and they have all the qualifications, they have all the skills, and they just don't get the jobs because they don't know how to talk about their success or be proud of what it is they have to contribute, or what the value is. And I remember one time I was working with this woman, and I got her to stand in front of the mirror and really own her success. And it was powerful, and she was crying, and I was crying too, I think. It's very emotional, but actually connecting with the amazing person that you are in the mirror. And one thing, so I used to perform a lot I had like a blues jazz band, a little bit Marilyn Monroe, boop, boop, ba-doop. And one of my rituals was, I would stand in front of the mirror, I'd do my makeup, and I would flirt with myself in the mirror until I felt just like, ooh, so great, until I inhabited that space. Now, you might not want to flirt with yourself in the mirror. Maybe if you're a guy, you want to be like, hey, yeah, I am powerful, I am this. But I want you to look in the mirror and find the amazing things about yourself. And that might take a little bit of work, and it might be super uncomfortable. However, for all my clients that I work with, and for every person I meet, I truly believe that there's something great and unique and valuable in them, and beautiful. There's something beautiful about every single person in the world, and it's about reminding ourselves what that is. And I've grown up in Denmark, where we have something called janteloven, which is like, don't think you're anything special, don't think you're better than anyone else, don't think you're this, don't stay low, don't shine too much. So I know the uncomfortable feeling, acknowledging your beauty or your talents or your gifts or whatever, but it is essential that we do it.
Yeah, I think for some of for those from our culture, English, we're a little bit more introvert in a way, and particularly I feel I am an introvert as well. I don't like putting myself out there or being on the stage and having the limelight shine on me at all. But I know that, and I find it hard. I guess as maybe a male, I find it hard to stand in the room and go, hey, good looking, how you doing? But I do know it is a bit of practice. It's practice, right? It's sort of, you've got to accept for yourself. I mean, I know, like I've interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of people in my career for the
Yeah.
videos that I create. And pretty much, I would guarantee that 90% of, pretty much 90% when I play it back to people, that is the horror. They go, oh, do I look and sound that way? But I've never actually played it back to someone else, and they go, "Oh my God, what is that person doing on camera? They should not be on camera at all. They look
Yeah.
awful. They sound awful." People just don't do that, and I think we need to get over
No,
ourselves. Actually,
we
yes,
do.
and I think it's a confidence thing.
Yeah.
It's a confidence thing
And
that you need to get in
mm,
front of the camera. I really love the idea of getting in the mirror first.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also think
Yeah.
it's also getting in the mirror and talk. I know it might sound a bit crazy, but talking to yourself. Okay, you need to sort
Oh
of
God, I do it all
talk
the
to
time.
yourself as well.
No, but you must. And I'll tell you, I did a degree in popular music performance at the London College of Music. And one of the performance classes we performed every week or every other week, and it got filmed. So then the next week, when you're then not in the performance space, then you get into the editor's space, or the space where you are no longer emotionally attached to the performance you were doing at that time, because that's not the time to make any judgment call on what it is you're doing. And then the next week we would look back at our videos, and it was really uncomfortable because you're sitting there with your peers, you're sitting there with your teacher, and at first you would give yourself feedback and analyze, then the teacher, and then it opened up to the group. It wasn't fun, however, it did facilitate great and quick growth, because it's very, very simple to say, okay, when I stand like that, it doesn't look great. How can I improve that? Or when I sang that note, in my head it sounded great, but actually upon reflection, when I'm looking at it again, you need to remove your own personal feelings a little bit and look at it objectively and go, and sometimes you might need someone else there to go, hang on a minute. Yeah, you felt uncomfortable in that moment, so you feel like you look uncomfortable, but actually as someone who's not in your body, you don't look uncomfortable. So I would say, again, in front of the mirror, but also get in front of the camera, because you have to unfortunately break through it, and you have to do it and do it and do it. But you, as I'm sure that you work, when you work with your clients as well, you do need some frameworks to help you so that you're not just frustrated. And that's when it comes down to looking at, how do I stand? How do I sound? Am I waffling? Where was the message unclear? Where did my eyes go like that? Because actually I wasn't sure about what I was saying. So that you get really specific about things instead of just dismissing it as, oh, that was shit. Or, oh, I look horrible.
I think there's a great tip there. And I'm surprised when I do a lot of interviews, a lot of people don't want to see it played back. And I think that's a mistake. And I think you should actually record and play it back, because that's how you learn. And and I would agree that I think, most people have a smartphone. And I think if you want to start out, is actually video yourself, record yourself on a smartphone, and then play it back. As uncomfortable as it may be for the first few times. Like I hated, I'm not a natural in front of camera. I remember my first few attempts on camera back probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I cringed. I thought, oh really? Do I sound like that? And I looked at that and I thought my performance is not great. And you know what? You need to just do it. Practice does make perfect eventually. But now I'm a lot more comfortable of actually seeing myself back. And that's purely because I'm doing it enough times now to get more comfortable with it. Am I happy with my overall performance? No. Ultimately, does it matter? Not really, because I've talked to people and they just think, you seem fine in front of the camera. You seem natural. I don't feel natural.
Yeah.
It's not natural to be in front of the camera, is it? I mean, I think that's really hard to be natural.
Yeah, it's not natural. It just isn't, because it is a performance. And I think some people get that a little bit confused, thinking, but if it's a performance, I'm not authentic, or it's not real. But that's not the truth. A performance is there to spread your message in the best way possible. It's all tricks and tools that you use to enhance something so that it's as easily digestible for the viewer or for the listener or for the audience as possible. And that's another thing, like, if you find it very uncomfortable, get really clear on why you're doing these videos. If you think, oh, I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I sound, okay, but then get really clear on the impact you're making for the people you're talking to. One time someone told me, I was at, I don't know, a conference or something, and we had this amazing speaker there. And she put on the music and she was telling us this very heartfelt story about a man and a woman, and they were walking down the beach, and all these starfish had been swept up on the beach. And one of them starts throwing out a starfish into the sea, and they walk a bit further and then throw another starfish out. And the other person goes, "What are you doing? It's pointless. You can't make a difference. Look, there's hundreds and thousands of starfish on this beach." And the person picks up another starfish, throws it out to sea, and goes, "But I made a difference for that one." And I think that's the thing to also remember when we're doing things. If your video makes a difference to one person, is that worth it? Is it worth it? And only obviously, we can answer that question. Is that worth it?
Of course it is, but I think also we get a little bit, we get this matrix, which more views, as vanity views is what I call it, where we just want everyone to watch and love. But I argue that it doesn't really matter. You're not in it to get a massive audience, really, and not necessarily want to become a YouTube or Instagram influencer. But we're talking about video for business. Therefore, when you create videos, it's getting in front of the right audience. Okay. And, you don't need a massive audience for that, as long as the audience you want to watch are watching. And I think that it is about consistency. I use this term a lot, creating consistent video content. I know so many people create one video, thought that was awful, give up, right? They're never going to do video again. Yeah. But it's really got to push through. We're talking about that, push through that barrier, that pain barrier, and keep going. And I'll guarantee the first video you do will be awful. Okay. Unless you're practice and perfectionist and have amazing people around you, it's probably not. And I would say it's pretty much, you can look at it and go, that's awful. But the idea is not to stop, is to do the next video and do the next one. And like I have, and eventually you do get comfortable with it. You do get used to it, because I know that I have an important message that I want my audience to understand and reach to, which is about how video can actually impact and grow your business. And if I don't do video, because I'm a video guy, that they're going to miss out. And I feel that I do have an important message. I do have insights and great knowledge that I can share, and it's sort of my responsibility, it's my mission almost, to do this. Therefore, I have to get in front of the camera. I have to do this, for sure, because I want my audience to know about video and how they can use video for business. I just want to go back to performance, but particularly on a camera, because sometimes it's a bit hard to look at this sort of lens. Okay. I mean, it's a little bit different. I know if you're in front of an audience doing public speaking, you can get the energy from an audience. But talk to me about performance. I mean, how should you perform in front of a camera? It is a performance, but how do you become as natural as possible, or do you need to sort of up the game and become an actor and do almost what we call panto mode, where you sort of deliver over the top? I mean, what's your views on performance in front of a camera, and how do you get the best performance?
So I would say we don't want you to become a panto character. However, you do need to become a little bit larger than your normal self. Perhaps that depends totally on who you are, because ultimately your unique person, your unique greatness is why people are going to buy from you or your company. So, but of course, you're not going to be you in your pajamas and slippers in the morning. Maybe you are. It depends what the message is and what you're selling. Maybe if you're selling chill out pajamas, then that's appropriate. But think about being slightly larger than yourself. And I want to go back to that thing of going, when do you feel best? When do you feel most passionate? When do you feel most engaged? And think about that person, that version of you, because we're many, many versions of ourselves. So tapping into that version where you're just like, boom, I'm gonna smash it. I'm gonna have one of those moments where you can't shoot through me. I'm invincible. Or I'm just like, yeah, I'm in my power. And by the way, that power can be very quiet and understated. Think about, I always get into the zone before I do anything. Before I do any performance, before I do any kind of video, and because you want to have energy when you're delivering something. Because if you don't have energy, then the audience isn't going to have energy to look at it, because they're going to be bored, they're going to be turned off. And if you're not connecting to what you're saying, then you're not going to be connecting to them either. So the first thing is get in the right state of mind for a performance. When I get ready, that's part of me getting ready for the performance. So I'm putting on clothes that I feel look good on me. And or colors that I feel like, okay, I was in the mood for these colors today because I feel like, oh, they pop a little bit and on the camera. And then you look, okay, does it complement the background of where I am? Do I stand out, or am I blending in with the background? So all these things. So you put on something that's almost like a costume, even though it's just your normal clothes, but something that makes you look and feel great. If you are someone who wears makeup, then that is part of the getting in the zone. It just is. When I was doing my hair this morning, I was thinking about talking to you on this call today. So I'm kind of gearing myself up. I'm setting myself up energetically. I'm thinking about, okay, what can we talk about in video? So that's part of it. Then, of course, you want to make sure that you hopefully have slept well. You eat something that's nutritious, that isn't going to make you burp halfway through the video or give you heartburn, or not eating anything and then you get a rumbling stomach. So just think about, how do I set myself up for success, and how do I feel great? It might be that if you're a bit tired, you want to do a few push-ups or some shadow boxing or running up and down the stairs a few times to get the adrenaline going, to get the blood pumping, to get the energy in your body. And you can see I'm sitting, I don't know if you can see, I'm sitting down, but I'm sitting with a very straight back here. So I'm ready to pounce. I'm ready to spring. I've got energy in my body. If I was sitting and talking to you all leaned back like this, the energy is just different. It doesn't push through the screen as much. And if you're very nervous, you can do some deep breathing and some meditation. Do visualization. How do I want to come across? I do a lot of future diary writing, especially if I'm a bit nervous about something. I remember I had a big show a few years ago and I'd lost my voice. And I didn't feel prepared. And was anybody going to turn up to this solo show I was doing, where I was singing? And I remember the day before, I sat in a Starbucks in Camden, I think, and I just wrote a diary entry, and I dated it to the day after the show. So say it's Monday, Wednesday. And then I just wrote, wow, yesterday went so well. I cannot believe it. My voice was incredible. The place was filled. I painted a picture with really powerful language, and I felt the energy of going, oh my God, that was so amazing. And the next day I did the show. My voice sounded incredible. The place was full. It came true. So, thinking about preempting, painting the picture of the future that you want. So let's say you have a big video filming day coming up. Paint the picture. And you can still be like, oh, wow, I was nervous beforehand, but then everything just fell into place. I remembered what I was saying. We had a great fun, la, 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 la. And the videos, when they came back, looked fantastic. Do what you can to just to put yourself in the best state of mind for the performance that you're going to be giving. And it might be that in between takes, you need to reset yourself a little bit, that you need to do a few breaths. And if things go wrong, and if you keep over the same lines, shake it out. Just shake out your body. And actually just doing that shakes up the energy. It's the same if you feel stuck, you go for a walk, then your whole energy changes, and then you come back, you're like, oh, now I have the solution to the problem because you moved your body.
Totally agree. I really think it's really about energy. And I know before I go on camera, I often bounce up and down just to get my energy level up. And I also do sort of some deep breathing just to sort of calm and relax a bit. So I think it really is a performance. And I think it's sometimes hard to get, to engage with this little black dot called a lens. And I think it's really important that you need to look at it. I sort of I'm always thinking I'm talking to someone at the other end. It's a friend or maybe it's a client that I'm talking to, and I try and make that sort of like we're having a conversation. I mean, have you got any tips about how do we connect with this lens particularly if you're not actually talking to anybody else?
Well, actually, it's one of the things that I see so many people do, especially when they're talking to their phone and they can see themselves, and then they're looking at their own reflection or their own picture, and it just creates disconnect. So engaging with the lens, it does feel weird because you're looking at a little black spot or a little green light. But if you find that it's difficult to not look at yourself, which creates disconnect, you can put a little stick up by the camera and say, hey, remember to look here. And again, it's a case of practice makes perfect again, which I know is annoying, but you just have to train yourself. Like you have to train yourself to look in the side mirror when you're driving and you have to turn. You have to just train yourself to do it. But as you also said, thinking about who is it I'm talking to at the other end. And that's where working with the mirror can actually help you, because there you can look at yourself and talk to yourself so you can see, when do I look bored? When do I look engaged? What am I doing with my face? Because of course we can, even though we're biased because it's ourselves, we still have a reaction to our reflection. So I would say do that. And also, the more comfortable you are with what you're saying, the easier it is to connect with the person. And especially if it's something that hopefully you're passionate about, that makes your job very easy, because then you get excited when you're talking about it, hopefully, or there is a connection to the material. If you're delivering something that maybe you're not as personally invested in, then it's your job to find something in that you can get personally invested in, or find, the bigger reason why that you should be talking about this, if that makes sense.
I think for a lot of business people, sometimes you have to deliver a script that maybe you haven't written. And I think it's really important to sort of own that script as much as possible. So don't just turn up with a piece of written word and just expect to be able to deliver it. I think my tip here is, I find when I work with my clients, is actually, no, you need to read it out loud and then make the edits. It'll save time, because so many times I've got to do the CEO of a business. Someone else has written this script, it might be the end of year report. and we spend probably half the time rewriting it to make it sound like it's spoken rather than written.
Yeah.
And I think, from your perspective, is it better to write a script and try to memorize it, or is it better to do bullet points? I mean, I think you need to have some structure. I hardly know anybody who can sort of ad lib to a camera for 5 or 10 minutes perfectly. I mean, if you got any sort of from a presentation point of view, or performance point of view, what's the best thing do you think? Should you write out your whole written script verbatim and then try and memorize it, or use an audio cue, or is it bullet points?
See, I think writing a whole script can create a lot of problems, because if you're trying to memorize something and then you get that one word wrong, that can throw the whole thing. However, saying that though, often I will write a whole script out and then I will read it through. Because that's often how my brain works. It's like I will kind of talk and write what it is I need at the same time. And then I will look at, okay, what are the bullet points? What are the themes here? And usually we want to keep it as simple as possible, because there's only so much information the viewer will take in anyways. So think about, can you make the segments or the videos short and succinct? So for instance, have one message with 3 subheadings or sub-messages. Generally think about one message or 3 and keep it to that. Of course, you can have within the video a list of more things. Yeah, think about how you can really integrate what you're trying to say in a natural way, because trying to read a script, and also I would say this, if you are someone who is using like teleprompter software, you have to practice it a lot for it to look natural. Like I haven't learned to use the teleprompter software. It would probably be a really good skill to have. And again, remember, it's a skill. And if you are someone doing more corporate videos or for businesses, that actually being on camera isn't your expertise. Your expertise is what you're talking about. So you have to remember that you should, as you say, you should do all the prep beforehand, so that filming actually is what should take the least amount of time. And then the editing takes the time at the other end, which either you or someone else will be doing. Often, if I go to do a video, we'll record in small little chunks, as I'm sure that you do as well for videos. And then if you have a couple of camera angles, that's good, because then if you make a mistake, then you can go back to the last point where you were on track, and then they can just change the camera angle so it still looks like it's one smooth performance. What I sometimes do, especially if I have a camera that's on a tripod and I'm there on my own and it's a longer video, I might write out the bullet points or the headings and then stick on by the camera, so I can just glance down but still look at the camera so it looks natural. Because there's nothing worse if you're looking at a video and someone's talking in the camera and then they go read, and then they go back and blah, 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 blah. And again, it's a skill to kind of let your eyes gaze, quickly pick up the 1 word or 2 words that you need to remember. And again, if you're doing a talk or a video where you have slides on the one side, which sometimes you can have, then that's a great way to keep you on track and sort of keep those anchor points in throughout the performance and the video.
That's some really good points there. I mean, for me, the magic comes in the editing, because that's where you can edit. I do the same as you. I basically break my talk or my video down into bullet points. I tend not to script them out totally. And then I sort of delivering at a paragraph at a time. And I'm using then the magic of editing to stitch it all together. And I can then cut out my ers and my ums and my hesitation. And I think when you're doing a video for a business, you got to remember that editing is really important. and it'll make you sound and look so much better. And then what I do with my videos, I often put what we call B-roll. We put other footage over it, which does make it much easier. But the main point here is to have an idea what you're going to say. I often, what I would do if I got an idea for a video, I will record it on my iPhone. I just record my voice, which sort of creates a script. From that, I can edit it out and then have some bullet points so I know what to say. When it comes to teleprompting, I sort of recommend not using it because you said it's a bit of a skill set you need to learn. It is about practice. And when clients say, "Oh, can I have a teleprompter?" I prefer not to use it. I don't try and use it personally because it just makes me come across as wooden. And then what I end up doing is sort of reading the script like this, and it just sounds very monotone and boring. So, it's better to try and memorize or little chunks, do different takes, and then rely on your editor. When you edit together, will make it more seamless.
Yeah. And another point I just want to make in terms of this, do practice before you start filming. And it takes a few days for things to settle in your brain anyways. But you want to make sure that you've practiced before you start filming, because you don't want to be getting really frustrated on the day and you're having to retake, because that's when your energy gets lower, your shoulders get up here and you get stressed out. And then you end up having a video where you're like, where you're totally not natural and it doesn't come across well. So filming is supposed to be a fun thing to do. It's not supposed to be something that's horrible. Of course it can feel horrible in the beginning when you're new at it, but only because it's uncomfortable. And then you have to remind yourself, and switch it around and go, oh my God, what an opportunity. I have to learn something I've never ever done in my life before. Wow, I'm so lucky I get to practice this thing. And most people, also business people, and a lot of business people are very creative people who've forgotten it. It might be that you can think, wow, you know what? When I was a kid, I actually loved goofing around and performing in front of my family in the living room when I was 4 or 5 years old. Think, oh, this is a new chance I have as an adult to play and have some fun.
And I think it's a really important skill set to learn, actually, especially for a business owner. It is a new skill set, but it's all about communication. And it's about communicating via the form of video, but you can apply these principles across anything you're doing in terms of talking to your team, if you're standing up in front of your staff, or even if you're given a presentation. These are all skill sets which are important. And if you're a business owner or leader, it's a skill that you need to learn and to practice.
And let's be real, you don't want to give prospective clients or your staff or your partners or anyone, you don't want to give them any excuse or reason not to buy from you. So we do have to practice. And as you say, it is a skill set. And it is more and more important. When we look at some of the big companies, for instance, Virgin, I don't know how many Instagram or Twitter followers they have. And then you look at Richard Branson, who has so many more followers. And that's because your personal brand is really important in your business. And it's you people want to see from and hear from. But I will also say that objectively, if you are, maybe this ruffle a few feathers, objectively, if you are terrible on camera, think about what else you could do whilst you're getting good at it behind the scenes.
I think, I've interviewed lots of people who are literally shaking because of nerves. I think the way I would do that, if you're really uncomfortable in front of the camera, what I've done in the past is actually be interviewed by someone else. So don't actually have to think you have to stand in front of the camera and look down this lens and then try and regurgitate some message or learn some message. Okay, what I've done in the past is actually, okay, that's too hard for you. You need to practice that. A simpler way of doing it is actually getting someone to interview you, a bit like what we're doing here, just having a little chat. And that way you'll feel far more relaxed, and you're likely to come across more naturally and give the information that you need. It might take a bit longer to do, but you will feel more comfortable. So think about, right, I can't do this camera thing. How about someone interview me? And it can either be a member of your team, or you can bring in a video professional to actually help you with that. I mean, the key is part of the way you ask, the way the questions are asked, and the way you answer the questions. But I've done this many times, to do an interview and basically ask the questions to make sure that when they answer the question in the answer, and then we just edit it together as a series of short videos. The other way of doing it is is not to be on camera, as actually then we've done in the past when people just can't perform. I get them to sort of read the script off, not recording them, but recording the audio. And from that, we can then, what we do, put other pictures, what we call B-roll, over it to tell the story. So there are ways to get around this. I do believe, though, if you're a business owner or business leader, you do need to be in front of the camera at some stage, because people buy from people. People need to hear from you, whether it's the leads, audience, team, staff, stakeholders. You do need to learn to get in front of the camera. It does take practice. And if you're really uncomfortable, you can get help. I mean, here we are. Elisabeth, I know you can help people when it comes to performance. Yeah. So don't think you can do don't feel you have to learn this by yourself. There are plenty of coaches out there, such as Elisabeth, who can help you through this, and help you through lots of things in terms of clarity of message, the way you actually stand, how you actually present to connect with the audience, whether it's a live audience or for camera. And the other thing I want to talk about is voice.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't particularly like, is my voice. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I'm a British and Australian. I do feel I have an Australian accent, and I feel I'm quite nasally. I think I sort of, it feels like I've got a cold all the time, but maybe that's just the Australian way of speaking. And I would love to, work on my voice. Is like, how can I be deeper and more authoritative? And I think a lot of people don't like their voice, because you're right. Because when you play your voice back, it's not how you think it sounds. I don't think I sound Australian. For me, my voice, because you hear it in your mind first, right? So it's what I call hearing myself in 3D. And when you play it back, it's like 2D, and you think, oh, that doesn't sound deep and resonant, and it has, who's this guy with this accent? So I'd love to hear about, some voice tips.
Well, I was just thinking, because I don't think that okay, you don't have a deep gravelly voice, but you don't have like a super high voice either. You have an Australian accent, and that's part of what makes you you. I think your voice is lovely. It's not to necessarily compare ourselves to anyone else. However, there's of course things that you can do to lower your voice, and it is simply practicing talking a little bit lower. So you can go, or maybe you start doing some, before you're talking, do some ho, 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 as if you're the Father Christmas. Wow. And you can also think about, because the thing about the nasalness is it's a natural way of how your mouth and nasal cavity is built up. If you practice doing some, what we call an internal smile, or an internal, I'm getting a surprise, and you go, if you just try that, because what that does is it lifts the soft palate at the end, at the back of at the back of the roof of your mouth. And then, so I'm not a vocal coach, by the way, I'm a speaker coach. So my words might not be exactly correct. But when you lift the soft palate, then there's less airflow going through your nose, which is what makes you sound more nasally, is when you push now you can hear me, I'm more nasally, because I'm pushing the air more through my nose than through my mouth. So there are definitely exercises you can do. And what you can do is try and talk in a kind of those monk mass, when they do that thing. So if you try and talk, then you can actually, so you're almost singing, and that's how you can get the pitch a bit lower in your voice.
There's exercises you can do to warm up your voice before you go on camera.
For sure. I mean, warming up your voice is essential, really, especially if you're talking for a long time because your voice gets tired. Because normally when we are having a conversation, I talk a bit, then you talk a bit. But if you're doing all the talking, first of all, make sure you drink lots of water. Because if you're doing all the talking, you're getting lots of air
Yes.
in, and that dries out your voice. So that's one thing. Start drinking water. It takes about 20 minutes from when you've drunk water for it to reach your cells. So in the morning of when you're going to be recording or when you're going to be talking, make sure you drink lots of water. Not too much, so you have to go to the toilet all the time, but enough, and then keep sipping water in between takes. Then you want to firstly actually warm up your body, and doing some stretching, some neck stretches is very important. Kind of get some of the kinks out. But if you've done some jumping up and down, your body's already getting warmed up. Then the first thing I do is some what we call sirens. So I'll start off, it's very, very gentle, just to go from the lowest part of your voice to your highest and back down again, almost like a roller coaster. So you do, so you can do it on a or you can do it on what we call a lip bubble. So you do I love this. It's so gentle. If you have any sort of phlegm that's stuck in your throat, that kind of gets carried away without having to go which isn't great for the voice, because that kind of slaps the vocal cords together and can make them a little bit inflamed. So doing, not everyone can do it. Then you can put your fingers at the side of your mouth. That helps it. Or you can do a tongue trill. This is a wonderful way to warm up your voice, and you're kind of just stretching like an elastic band to the highest to the lowest. And the more you do it, you can kind of widen that range, a bit like how you stretch your muscles when you go to the gym, or when you start yoga, maybe you can get your leg halfway there, and then the more you do, the more supple you become, and it's the same with the voice. The other thing I like to do if I'm talking a lot is what we call a creak. So you go, oh, and you're kind of sounding like a door. Oh, and that really accesses that low part of your voice as well. So those are kind of my very quick, easy, that everyone can do warm-up voices or warm-ups, warming up the voice and the body. And sometimes you might need to warm up your face a little bit too, especially if you're talking a lot, and because we can get a bit stiff in the mouth. So, doing a bit of sort of, tongue behind your lips. So, and you can kind of do some lip or tongue agility, where you're placing the tip of your tongue, the top of your lip, the side, the bottom, and the other side. So, and we actually have a terrible lot of tension in our tongue. We never stretch our tongue really. So stretching it out, it's great. And you can feel that tension actually underneath here as well. And the other thing I want to tell you is, if you are having to deliver some text, now that I remember that, if you're having to deliver some text and you can't remember it, or you are tripping over the words, a great thing is to read it really slowly and exaggerate it. So you are saying things and you look ridiculous. But when you are exaggerating your mouth movements, it's almost like you're teaching all the muscles what they're meant to do. So if there's a really difficult part, or maybe it's a bit technical, first of all, we tend to stumble over the paragraphs or the sentences where we don't feel 100% sure that we know what we're talking about. That's also when a lot of the ums come in, that we all have, that are very annoying, but it's because our brain isn't quite keeping up with us. So if you then go over that bit and maybe edit it, normally when I do voiceovers, because I'm the voice of a Danish TV channel, so I do the next up this evening, we've got the new episode of blah, 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 blah. If I write those little links and then I go to record them. And if I have to record more than twice, I rewrite the script because it means the script is not good enough. Bad script, bad delivery or hard delivery. Good script, it should be easy to because it should just make sense to you when you're saying it. But if there is something where the script is still good, it's just a little bit hard, try and do it slowly. It's like if you're training for a race and you have I see runners and they have the weights on their ankles and they're running. And then when they go to race day, they take the weights off and it's so much easier. It's the same kind of principle.
I love that. I love the bit about speaking in slow motion. And I think it's also about any particular difficult words, pronunciation. Yeah. I know so many people get trapped on words or stuck on words, and it just every time they do the script, it stumbled at that particular word. My tip there is change the word. Don't try and don't try and win that battle by pronunciation. You just can I change the word for something I can say easier? And I think I love the facial. Lots of things I've taken away from this. Yeah, though I might sort of jump up and down like a tigger to get my energy going, I should really, my big tip here is to do some voice, some scales in my voice, and also warm up the face. And I think one really big tip here is to smile. It's really when the camera rolls, before you say your first sentence, big smile, because a smile goes a long way. And even when you finish the video, keep the eye contact and smile. I think it's really important because people, because video is quite tight normally, you normally sort of head and shoulders or waist up, so you have to sort of perform with your face a bit more, and therefore smiling goes, I think, a long way.
We smile with our eyes. That's important as well, because you can just you can just raise your cheekbones and widen your mouth, but actually you want to smile with your whole face.
Elisabeth, I've just loved all the tips insights that you've shared with us today. I'll definitely, before I get on camera doing some of those exercises, where can people find out more about you if they think, yes, I want some support from Elisabeth to help me be a better performer? Where can they find you?
So you can go on my website, which is www.elisabethvalentine.com. Remember, Elisabeth is with an S because I'm Danish, so there's no Z in Elisabeth. It's Elisabeth with an S. You can find me on Instagram at Elisabeth Valentine _ Someone else stole Elisabeth Valentine. So Elisabeth Valentine _ Elisabeth Valentine on Facebook as well, or LinkedIn, Elisabeth Valentine Christensen. So find me, give me a, send me a message if you feel like you need some help with any of this. And also, if you go on my website and go to free resources, you can get my free ebook, How to Find Your Voice and Become a Confident Speaker.
I'll put all the links on how you can connect with Elisabeth in the description. Now, if you want to know how you can get confidence on camera, I have a special offer for you. I have a mini course, Confidence on Camera, and I'm offering 25% as you've watched this video. I'll put the link in the description with the discount code so you can check this out. The offer is only valid until the end of March. Now remember, if I can get in front of the camera, so can you. And here's some other videos you'll want to check out in my Simon Says video series.